let us talk to Ingrid Seward, who is, of course, editor of Majesty Magazine, royal biographer, of course, as well. We've got Prince Harry very firmly in the news today because, according to a story in the Daily Telegraph, the answer to whether he was truthful about his drug-taking activities when he applied for his US visa is that, yes, he was. Friends of his have told the Telegraph that he was, in fact, honest about the fact that he had taken cocaine, that he had taken magic mushrooms, that he had taken some weird psychotropics from the Amazonian rainforest. Let's find out from Ingrid whether she thinks that will make any difference at all to his status over there. Ingrid, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mike.
So, Harry, he's never long out of the news. We sort of kept him out of the news for a little while after his book was published, but he's back in it now. This think tank in America that wants to find out whether he was honest in his application, I think they've asked for a sort of effectively freedom of information request so they can see what he actually wrote down. But friends saying that he did admit to taking all these drugs. I mean, I was of the opinion originally that I didn't think Americans would care as long as he wasn't found guilty of any criminality. But is that the truth, or could he be in a bit of difficulty here?
Well, from what I know about American visas, which isn't a great deal, I would have thought he would be in a bit of trouble because other people have been refused, other people have been turned away. And whether that, I'm not sure if it's because they haven't admitted to taking drugs or they have admitted to taking drugs. But I would have thought that, I mean, at least Harry didn't lie on his visa application.
Right.
And presumably, because he's who he is, you know, they probably thought, well, you know, we'd like to have him here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes. I mean, my understanding, certainly, of just going in and out as a visitor is that you have to declare if you've got any criminal charges against you for possession of drugs or for using drugs. But if he hasn't got any of the actual charges, I know Nigella Lawson was hauled off a plane once because of something that appeared in a newspaper. But I don't, I mean, I suppose the difficulty is whether he's still taking the drugs. It's not that clear that he stops, is it?
Not at all. I mean, according to his book, he still is taking drugs, and according to the interviews he's given, he's taking this weird hallucinogenic drug that because it keeps him calm and enables him to get on with his life. So whether or not he's still taking it, but it sounds to me as if he is. But at least he's not lying about it.
Well, I suppose that's something he's not lying about. I mean, without putting too fine a point on it, he's got to tell the truth about some things, hasn't he? Because, of course, what we do know is that she's gone very quiet, and we've been talking a lot about the interview that they both gave to Oprah Winfrey and how many of those claims about racism have now never been mentioned, have just been sort of brushed away as if they didn't exist, and they've now said, oh, well, we never meant to suggest that there was any racism. Well, of course they did.
Well, of course they did. I mean, I think that everybody, well, most people in this country got very bored of them attacking the royal family, you know, Harry attacking his brother, you know, sort of slightly underhandedly attacking his father. I think we just all got very bored with it. And I think in America that is also the case, that people don't like the idea of him attacking his family. Right. And of course everybody blames Meghan because Meghan really doesn't seem to have a family at all anymore, apart from her mother.
Well, she certainly has form for falling out with families, isn't she, especially her own. And what about the coronation and the upcoming sort of pageantry around all of that? Because we're told that they have been offered an invitation, but they haven't sort of said yet whether they're both going to come.
Well, we don't know that they've said yes or no, but I mean, I'm convinced and always have been that they will both come. Because imagine, you know, they purport to be so, you know, loving, everything that they do is for their children and their children's future. Well, how are you going to say to 4-year-old Archie, or about to be 4-year-old Archie, well, we didn't go to your grandfather's coronation because we didn't want to be sort of jeered at. But then Archie's going to say, Mum, I've missed the biggest moment of my life. All those castles and soldiers and horses and something he's never going to see in his life again.
Yes. And also it's hard to imagine Meghan Markle, I'm going to call her by her maiden name, or her name before she married Harry. It's hard to imagine her avoiding any kind of publicity at all like that, because without the kind of pageantry of the royal family, they're not really much more than a couple of two-bit celebrities, are they?
Absolutely. I think they need the royal family, and they need it for their brand. And then when they get, you know, when they return to America, everyone's going to be asking about the coronation, what it was like, and what was, you know, what were the dinners like, what was the carriage procession like, and what was it like seeing, your father being crowned and your stepmother? It could go on endlessly. So they need that, because otherwise what else are they going to talk about?
Yeah, exactly. And they managed it quite well, didn't they, when they came for the Queen's Jubilee, and in a way for the funeral as well, where they didn't go to absolutely everything. There were parties that were held that they didn't go to, and they spent quite a bit of time on their own in Windsor and that kind of thing. So I guess it can be managed, can't it?
I mean, they were surprisingly subtle over the Queen's Jubilee. I mean, they didn't look very happy, but they certainly, kept away from some of the main events, which actually was exactly right, I think.
Yes.
For once, I thought that they actually behaved extremely well.
And what have you made of all the stuff in the papers today about the coronation and the Green Man and Queen? Seeing Queen Camilla for the first time, for me, was quite a thing.
Well, in Majesty Magazine, we've been calling her Queen Camilla for some time, because the wife of a king is a queen.
Right.
She may not be an anointed queen, but, in a month's time, she is going to be an anointed queen. And so to call her Queen Consort, I think, and I might be wrong, that the late Queen's idea was to get people, used to the idea that she really approved of Camilla and really respected what Camilla had done for her son.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody... I mean, I know there are still some recidivists, I guess, who say, oh, well, she was the woman who took Prince Charles away from Diana. I think that's very much a minority view now. I think most people think Camilla's a pretty good thing and has been a pretty good thing for Charles.
No, I disagree, actually. I think there are a lot of people that are still very anti-Camilla.
Really? And
I do feel that, yes. When I talk to people, I think not so much in this country, because we get to see them more often, but I do feel that globally, that they just think, well, they also think that, Charles and Camilla are just an old couple, which they are. But we really appreciate that here. And I think during the times we're going through now, we kind of want some older and stable king. I think it would be too much to expect William to be doing that now. Yes. So I think we're lucky to have Charles and Camilla.
Sure. So do you think when they sometimes go to foreign places, then there will be people who... I mean, certainly they seem pretty popular in Germany. Are you saying there's people who sort of won't accept that she's the Queen, that, basically the Queen is still King Charles's mother?
Well, I've heard from friends of mine in America that they're just not very interested in Camilla and Charles, because they think if it was, Kate and William being crowned at Westminster Abbey in a month's time, I think that they would be absolutely over the moon. But the fact it's sort of two older people being crowned, I think that there's not quite the interest, say, in North America. There would be in Canada, but actually in America, I think Australia are really interested, but they're part of the Commonwealth. Right. So it's not just totally smooth sailing for them.
No, interesting. I mean, I remember covering a couple of Charles's trips to the US back in the day, where he used to be terribly upset because all the American reporters would just shout at him, "Chuck! Come over here, Chuck!" And he was like not used to that kind of treatment at all.
No, I'm sure he wasn't.
And the fact that they called him that was always horrendous, and it was always in sort of out of the way places like Pittsburgh and stuff like that,
But I do think that Camilla is really the strength behind Charles, and I think we really need her. Yeah. And when you see them interacting a little bit off camera, she's always saying, "Oh, darling, that was wonderful. Yes. That was so good." And I think a strong man needs a much stronger woman.
Yeah, she definitely keeps him calm, as we saw with the pen incident, didn't we? When he was signing things back in the early part of the funeral proceedings last year. Finally, Jacinda Ardern apparently has been appointed a trustee of Prince William's Earthshot Prize, which kind of surprised me, really. I mean, what's he doing that for?
Well, I think he wants high-profile people. I think that, the more high-profile that people are, the better it is, because it brings more notice to it, and then people think about it, and it's all about, putting it in front of people and saying, this is what's happening, and this is what I'm doing. My little contribution is this Earthshot Prize, and I am, he's really doing... He's doing a pretty good job at bringing attention to the problems of the planet, which, of course, was something his father really went on about a great deal.
Absolutely right. Well, good to talk to you, Ingrid. We'll see you soon. Ingrid Seward is editor of Majesty Magazine, royal biographer, of course, as well, talking to us about Harry and whether he is still in a little bit of trouble over his drug use and whether he still is, in fact, using drugs. He seems to be quite happy to admit it. Seems to be quite happy to admit anything. He's told us loads of stuff that we didn't even want to know, for heaven's sake.